Hey everyone, welcome to episode 2 of Project 23, where we highlight different entrepreneurs, visionaries, dreamers across our community and just get to know them deeper at a deeper level and just see what their dreams and aspirations are. Today we have Carlos Guzman, a minister, a father, a dreamer, a visionary, and we're just gonna get to know his story, what his visions are, what his ambitions are, and just see what's next in his life and what he's been through all along. So tell me a little about yourself.
Yeah,
Carlos.
first of all, dude, thank you for having me. Thank you for asking me to be here. It's such an honor and a privilege. I've known you for how long now?
I think over a year and a half.
Yeah, a year and a half, and I've just seen like your I don't even know how to say it, but you like the growth that you've had in just this like year and a half, and it's just been amazing to have like front seat to it, bro.
That's awesome.
I just can't wait to see what God has and what more is in store for you, for Shepherds, for your family. But yeah, a little bit about me. I grew up in San Francisco, in South San Francisco actually, so it's right by the airport. My mom and dad, they actually met at a church. So we grew up knowing biblical principles. But it's so funny, bro, because I'm in this like stage in my life where I'm getting older, and I'm seeing certain like, how should I say it? Certain past childhood trauma actually coming to light.
Like to this day.
To this day,
And
bro.
how old are you?
34. So I'm seeing like certain things as I'm getting older, as I'm having more responsibility, as my family is increasing. We have 3 kids, so we have a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and 11-month-old, and it's crazy how like so much is of my past is coming up. So now I think about my childhood and I think about my parents and the trauma that they had and how they did their best, you know what I mean, in how to raise me. But even then, like, you know, no one's perfect.
Yeah.
And then thinking of that, so my dad, his dad died when he was about like 14, 15 years old, something like that. He was pretty young. And then my mom had, her dad was like battled with addictions, like several addictions, and came with that. So it was how life is, right? 2 broken people getting together and starting to raise a family. It was me and my older brother, and then I have a younger brother that's 12 years younger, but there was a lot of things that surfaced and that kind of, now I see, defined a lot of how I think, of how I operate and how I lead.
Yeah.
And I'm having to go back to those roots and reshape my mind and reshape my thinking on a lot of things. So I'm like in this process, bro.
Yeah. It's kind of wild to see like the way your upbringing was, your childhood, depending on how the family dynamic was. A lot of people don't understand how that affects you when you're a child. And then, so saying you're 34 today, maybe you were from age 0 to 15, crucial years of growing, your brain developing, and things happening, traumatic, experiences happening. And now 15 years later, almost 20, they're starting to surface up. And I think that's like crazy to like just see that, and knowing where you're coming from to where you're at today, it's like, wow, like, I think it's a good, I guess, thing to look at for other people to see like, hey, what did I go through in the past?
Right,
and what have I not dealt with today that I went through 15 years ago?
No, bro, and a funny example about that is like, for example, I think about how, like, when it comes to, like, let's just say clothing, right?
Clothing.
I love wearing things that nobody else has. Okay? And then you start thinking back, like, dude, why do I like that? Why do I like being, like, different? And you know why, bro? Because growing up, my mom would get me and my brother the same exact fits.
Oh, okay.
So, bro, I never had, like, almost individuality in how I, like, styled myself and how I, like, would dress. There's like
a lack of identity.
Bro, there was like a lack of just, like, being able to decide for myself. So, like, even right now, we're seeing the simplicity of like, man, we'd rather get our kids the same thing so no one fights, right? So we go to the store and we're like, all right, Zoe, we're gonna get you a Spider-Man shirt. So then what do we get Lana, our girl? Dude, we get her a Gwen shirt. You know what I mean? So it's like the same thing. But guess what? Lana may not want a Gwen shirt. Pero ni modo, I don't want fighting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And the simple things as a parent, you think what's best for your children can affect their psychological.
Can affect them.
That's
can affect like how they actually think, of how they see themselves, of who they are. So now I see myself, you know what I mean? Oh, dude, what are shoes that nobody else, like in my circle has?
Yeah.
Let me get them
Out,
so that I can stand out. And like, so people, you know what I mean? It's like, so it's so weird. And that's like an easy example though, but in reality, also there's a lot of traumatic things of how you see things, of how you see poverty, of how you see finances, of how you see your spiritual, of how you see, like there's so many different aspects of like, however you were like grew up on how that affects you and how that, you know what I mean? So like for me, I've been so blessed that even though my family was raised like, we didn't really have much money growing up. There was a lot of times where we'd just have like rice and beans, like, you know, for dinner, lunch, breakfast, todo, you know? But you know what's, but you know what's crazy? My parents never said we don't have money. They never allowed that kind of talk come into our.
Yeah. Why do you think that? Do you think it was like a spiritual reason? Do you think it was just maybe how they were raised?
I don't know. Dude, I don't know, but I'm like I want to know. I think I'm gonna ask him that. But yeah, they both met at church. And they both came from different families. My dad actually came from a well-respected family in El Salvador. So my grandfather on my dad's side, who died when he was about like 15, 16, I'll go see, they had asked him to become president of El Salvador.
Wait, what?
Bro.
Your family line being president? That's crazy.
Almost. But he said no.
What?
So he was a general of El Salvador, bro. He was a general of El Salvador. And they asked him, hey, could you become president of El Salvador? And he said, oh, no, because I don't believe that the military should hold that high of a position.
Like honor, respect.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So he wanted to keep the military separate from the presidency.
Wow.
So that's what his belief was. So he said no. So then they gave it to someone else. And then they made him ambassador. So he was like ambassador to the U.S. for a bit. So my dad actually lived in Washington for a couple years. Yeah, bro.
Dang.
Yeah.
It's crazy because right now we're talking about like psychological upbringing, emotional upbringing, just how children are raised and affected for the future. But also this is going generational for you. Something I see for yourself, for you. You're a leader today. You're a minister. You're a father. You're a pastor at Fearless San Diego. And just seeing your past with your father's dad, in the presidency and being in the military in general and all that, like I can see that generational like blessing and gift that you have today as a leader. And you may not be a military leader or a presidential leader, but you're a strong leader where you're at today with church. And I think that's amazing to see that, like how we can look back in our, past family descendants. I don't know, what my great grandfather, who was he? What was he, and what am I inheriting? What gifts am I inheriting today? And I'm just kind of seeing that. But going into that, your pastoral leadership, your role as a minister, as a father, like how did you start stepping into that? How did you know that you had leadership gifts?
Yeah.
Like how do you discover that in yourself?
Real quick, I want to say something about the generational stuff that you were talking about. A lot of people, bro, they know the generational curses that they have, but they don't know the general blessings that they have.
That's true, man.
So what's crazy is like, I knew that my grandpa on my dad's side, he was addicted to a lot of things. Not until I started asking more questions did I find out that he was also very business savvy. So then now I know, okay, there's my grandpa. who comes from these two things, the addiction side, but also the business side. Mm-hmm. So there's a curse and a blessing. Do you know what I mean?
That's wild.
And then, but a lot of people don't operate in that blessing because they don't know. So that gives me the courage of like, you know what? I'm gonna hold on to that. I'm gonna pray against like that curse. I'm gonna pray against that stronghold or whatever, but I'm gonna receive that blessing and I'm gonna continue that blessing. You know what I mean? So like how you were talking right now about like my grandfather on my dad's side, that leadership, knowing that's what he had, and also knowing that he was very generous. So every Sunday he would buy bread and he would give it to his community. Like people all over loved him, and it's so crazy because I see that like in myself of how people are drawn to me, not because of me, but because of God inside of me. You know what I mean? But like I feel that people get drawn to me, and like, you know, like I have that personality and that charisma almost.
Yeah.
And it all comes from him.
Wow.
It comes from him, you know what I mean? And how that led me to lead. To be honest, bro, I kind of stumbled on it. I never saw this sort of title. I think maybe when I was younger, of course, growing up in church, like, you don't want to be an usher, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You look at the position, you're like, bro, I'm trying to be a worship leader or a pastor, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you think that, and my dad, he was like an associate pastor where we grew up, so I was very close to the church world. But I think also because of that, it made me see the reality, and it made me say, you know what, I don't want that.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, I don't want to be that person, because I saw pastors off stage. I saw, you know, that.
You saw the inconsistencies or consistency of a double life.
Yes.
Yeah, that draws people
The
away.
inconsistency of what they say and how they lived. You know, I was able to see that, and then even in my dad, of how he was a minister, and he was an associate pastor, and he was leading people, and I saw the beauty of it. But then I also saw how that stress and how him being away from his family so much affected us as a family. You know what I mean? And how that created, I don't want to say this dysfunctionalness, but something that we've had to like work through, you know, and something that we had to put like God in the middle to mend relationships, right? So like seeing that made me like really pull away from wanting anything to do with leadership at church, you know? But that didn't mean that I was pushed away from like God. Thankfully, like the church that we went to, even though every church has its flaws, really, really put an importance on discipleship, and really put an importance on like loving God and having your relationship with God. So that's something that like I took with me. I always lived. And then, I mean, opportunities came where I ended up at P.Los in Los Angeles.
Yeah. So
crazy how all that story happened, but I ended up moving there without knowing the pastor.
From San Francisco to LA,
from San Francisco, we moved to Sacramento because we couldn't afford anything in San Francisco. Oh, bro, it's crazy. We were either able to get like a 1-bedroom type apartment with the same money. My parents were able to buy a 4-bedroom house in Sacramento.
No way.
Bro.
No.
Yeah. This was like close in like, man, I want to say like 2003, 2004.
Oh, it's good. The good days. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah. So like, we made that move. So I lived there for a bit, and then ended up going to like moving P.Los LA a year before we actually launched the church. So I was fortunate enough to see the back end of it, and I think seeing that and being close was a healing moment for me. I saw the other side of a pastor being living a double life almost, you know what I mean, and not saying what they preach. But then P.Los was a healing moment for me of seeing a pastor live out what he preached and believing,
so So God took you on this journey of seeing the dirty and the bad of church.
Yeah.
You grew up in it as a PK, right? Pastor's kid, is that what they call it? And seeing the I guess just the inconsistency we're talking about. But then God had a plan to take you to Fearless LA and showed you what true worship, true discipleship.
Yes.
And going into that, like you said, you stonewall leadership and you're trying to discover, you're not like with that. But speaking of discipleship and a loving family at Fearless, like how does discipleship and leadership come together? Like did that come together for you to discover your true self and your identity?
100%. I think in the road to leadership there has to be discipleship. Like, so that blessing of almost being a natural born leader is there, right? So like so like that could have easily gotten me the title of like, oh dude, yeah, you're gonna be the pastor at Fearless San Diego, right? Along the line. If I was never discipled, I'd never have the character to sustain that.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean?
Discipleship sustains character.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Discipleship, true discipleship.
True discipleship.
Right?
So can you explain that? What is a discipleship that people may believe? And then what is true discipleship? Like, what does that mean?
The best way I could describe it is when Paul says, follow me as I follow Christ.
Okay.
A lot of people want disciples to just follow me, and it ends there. So what happens? You reproduce who you are.
Wow.
So you start reproducing the sins that I have and who and all these things. You start reproducing that. But if you do what Paul says, follow me as I follow Christ, you're saying, hey, this is the same Paul that said, I'm the chief of sinners. How crazy that someone that says, dude, I'm the worst sinner out of all you, follow me. But the key is, follow me because I know who I'm running to. And I know that at the end of the day, if you keep following me, you'll be pointed to Christ because that's who I'm going to. So with my family, dude, I let people see everything. The good, the bad, and the ugly, because that's discipleship. Discipleship will take everything from you. And that's why we rarely see true discipleship. Because discipleship takes your treasures, it takes your talent, and it takes your time. It takes time to disciple someone. It takes your talent to disciple someone. It takes your resources and your treasures to disciple someone. We let people in our house all the time that we're discipling and that we're mentoring or that we're going through life with, you know? And through that process, people see who we really are. And there's this like stigma of like, dude, I don't want people to see exactly who I'm at, who I am, because they're gonna know like, man, I'm not that put together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we just talked about patience, right? The closer people get to me, the closer they'll see like, hey, my man ain't that patient, bro. Because guess what? As they're in my house, they see how I am with my kids. They see how I am with my wife. But then they also see how I am in taking them to the presence of God. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. They get to see, and it's crazy, bro, because for a while we would have this guy in our church come over almost every single Monday. And he was like, dude, that alone has been such a healing journey for me because I see how a family of God operates. Because I never had that growing up. Wow. I've been able to see, and what's crazy, I could have easily shut the door to people coming to my house and being around me because...
And that's what people are longing for, huh? Is that genuine authenticity. Like, there's authentic relationships where it looks dirty, and then there's the authentic relationship that, hey, this is real. I'm following God as best as I can, but I'm not living a double life. This is who I am on stage, off stage, in my family. And just being that example and even being raw to people, huh? It's like, look at, hey, friend, come in every Monday. This is my family dynamic. But here I am being an example of Christ. Following me as I follow Christ, as you said, the word says, right?
Yeah.
And going back to what your dad or the associate pastor of the church or seeing the dynamic of inconsistency, it's like, I feel like you might have kind of thought about that a lot. Like, dang, like he's coming to my house. He might see the way the way that maybe a double life because my dad, or there is an example of that in the past, and you're kind of just worried like, dude, is he gonna see that here?
Yeah.
Is it gonna mess up? But I think it's amazing to see, like, just because you have a hard life as a Christian or even as a pastor, that doesn't mean that you're gonna fail them, or it doesn't mean that you're gonna lead them astray. But it just means that, dude, this is what it is to live a real life, a genuine life, because like myself as a pastor, I'm just like you.
Yeah.
And just kind of meeting them in that middle ground.
And it gives people freedom to be who they are. So a lot of times, bro, people will come to church and they put this mask on of who they think you want them to be, and they come with their selves already put together, and they never become vulnerable, and they never let you in on what's really going on. They never let you in on the traumas that they're facing, on the emotional damage that they have, on the spiritual side of how, like, man, I'm not walking as I should, right? But then as they see my life and they're like, oh, okay, Los also don't got it put together, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Los is becoming vulnerable. And that's something that I saw my pastor, our lead pastor, Pastor Jeremy, like how he just shows his vulnerability on stage, off stage. You know what I mean? And how that draws people closer to him. Like, dude, okay, there's a story in the Bible of Jesus when he's in Gethsemane. And he shows his humanity. And it says in the Bible that he was sweating as hard as someone who's bleeding. So he's like sweating hard, bro. Dang. And he's like telling his disciples, like, bro, guys, stay up and pray for me, please. Like, dude, I want you guys. And he showed his humanity. People follow that humanity, bro, because people relate to that. People are like, dude, I see that, and I'll be there with you. It's crazy as like what drew me towards like Pastor Jeremy, and what helps me just like, follow him, is seeing his humanity, seeing how he is with his kids, seeing how he is with his wife, and being like, okay, yeah, dude.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
You're normal. Yeah. You go through the same stuff we do. Dude, everyone's life's the same. Every couple goes through the same fights. Every parent goes through the same battles with the kid. But a lot of times people hide that because no one communicates it, so people think it's just them, right? So then as I'm seeing him have the same conversations with his kids that I have with my kids, I'm like, bro, not just that, but I learn how he has conversations with it. I'm like, dude, that's great. But no one's kid is perfect. You know what I mean? So it's been so healing for me to see that, and so healing for me to like learn from him of like, dude, it's the vulnerability and it's the humanity that makes me just go all in. It's that makes me say, okay, I can get behind you. I can get behind you because you're not hiding who you are, and you're not condoning yourself as this spiritual person, and everyone just follow me. I got all the answers. No, it's follow me. Even though I'm broken, even though I'm a sinner, even though I'm through my own journey, even though I don't have this all down, follow me because this is where I'm going. Because I'm headed this way, because I'm headed towards Christ, because I'm headed, and hey, I may not have all the answers, and being okay saying, hey man, I don't know. I was just with someone who just went through something super traumatic. A couple years ago. I haven't gone through anything remotely close. So I can't even say, dude, I know what you're walking through. But you know what I could do? I could cry with them. I could be empathetic. I could feel. And then I could pray. But like, yeah, God has taken me through this journey of what being a pastor actually looks like, bro. And I think I was very blessed to not even have the role or the title before this, because it made me kind of like seek God. Hey, what does this word actually mean? What does this actually look like? Like, what do I do? what, you know, and it's just loving people, bro.
Being real.
It's being real.
Loving people.
It's taking time to meet with people while they're going through the mess. Dude, it's so crazy because I've had to learn how to balance my life. Because, yeah, there's the work portion of it. There's the people portion of it. But then at the same time, there's my wife, my 3 kids, my own responsibilities, side jobs, all this stuff. It has to be balanced. And how do you balance all that? How do you balance that when you're leading like a group of people that need to go through their own healing? As I'm healing. You know?
Yeah.
So that in itself has been quite a journey of how to do that.
And then so hearing you say all these spheres in your life, because you have 3 kids. You want 5, huh?
I want 5, bro.
5 kids. So let's look at the future. 5 kids, wife, business, church. Maybe you're over 2 campuses. Who knows? 3 campuses. The future, and then meeting with people, pastoring, and then still, you know, being aware of what you've gone through in the past. As we're talking about traumatic experiences to healing, a journey of healing. Like, can you explain how does one even process all of that and be able to balance?
Yeah.
Like, is there even a balance, man? Like, I feel like that's so much to carry. Like, what does that look like? What rhythms are you gonna develop today? What habits are you gonna take today to get to that future? Because right now, 3 kids, church, 1 church, and it's a lot already. But I believe God's gonna entrust you with even more responsibility. So how would you plan for that future? What habits do you need to develop today?
The most dangerous thing that can happen is that all the things around you grow and you don't grow. It has to start with your personal life, bro. You have to always be a student and continue to grow, continue to heal, continue to search. We'll never reach perfection, but I can always progress myself to a better me. It has to start with me. Like my family, like how could I lead a family if it's a broken me?
You can't.
So it starts with so right now, like I'm trying, right? Get up at 6 every day. I hit the gym, get my mind right. I'm just like, you know, and then after I start, you know, doing a devo with God. I'll read from the word. I'll spend some time. I'm learning how to sit still and sit in silence. And right now I'm like, I try for like 5-10 minutes. And I think I reach 1 minute of actually just being like, you know, so that in silence, bro. That's hard, bro.
Yeah.
That's hard. I could hear, like, cause I do it outside. I could hear like just
people chatting,
like flies, bro. I feel like I could hear like insects move, man. It's the hardest thing.
Yeah.
Because I'm someone like, dude, ask my wife, ask people who've lived with me. I can't be in silence. Literally, hey. Like, maybe that's why I want 5 kids, so I don't have to like,
never be silent.
I don't have to put noise, bro, but I'll literally put a podcast or I'll binge watch The Office, but I won't watch it. I just need...
You need sound.
Stimulation, bro.
Yeah.
Which that leads to, okay, where did that come from? Because, dude, that's not normal.
Wow.
Right? Wow. Like, it's not normal for me to like always need stimulation around me and to be engaged in something, right? So that's where I have to get better in my own life of searching, okay, where's that coming from? How can I quiet myself? How can I be okay being still? How can I be okay just like sitting in silence and making the kids a meal while there's nothing going on? Because, bro, like, so this morning, I finished my quiet time, finished everything, got ready, and then I was like, dude, I'm gonna start making some eggs for LJ, right? So boom, I started making some eggs, and I was like, dude, it's so quiet. Boom, get my phone, start a podcast, just throw it. You know what I mean? Because I can't. So I'm in this journey of figuring out why. If I don't figure that out, heal from that, get better from that, get better from moving from impatience to being more patient, what happens? I could have the 5 kids, I could have that, but dude, who I am now can't handle that.
You'll stay back.
Imagine you who you were 10 years ago, but trying to hold what you have now.
Can't. No way.
A wife, a business, leader at a church. You couldn't.
Possible.
So there has to be a continual growth in your own life. And then from there, always having conversations of what's our rhythm now? And is that sustainable for the future we want? So a lot of people are good at, okay, this is what I have now. I'm gonna create this rhythm, and then we just, and then we just start living with this new rhythm, but that just, you build a rhythm for what you have now, but then God's like, dude, I want to give you more, but you haven't placed the right rhythms in your life for you to handle more. So if I give you more, it's going to cause like a crushing and a breaking to your soul and your family, and it might destroy you. So me and Amanda, we had a conversation last night, of like, dude, where are we at? We're at one date night a week, but maybe we need 2. Because as the church is getting bigger, as our kids are getting older, there's less communication between, and one date doesn't cut it. Hey, maybe this week we need 3 nights where we go out because of the season we're at. Wow. But it has to be a continual conversation and an open dialogue of like, okay, what are our needs? Because if me and Amanda aren't good, our family won't be good, the church won't be good. But a lot of us don't take time because we get so busy and we're always in a hurry. So we never take time to slow down. Bro, as busy as we are, which is not as busy as some other people, it's hard to be like, hey, yo, Amanda, babe, how have you been? How have I been treating you? Wow. Do you need more from me? What do you need from me? Is this life that we're living, if it continues, is the fulfillment still there? Are you still a priority to me? Do you feel that you're still a priority to me? Because she is, but does she feel that way? Are my actions showing what's actually in my heart? Wow. Like, is she feeling like she's the number one as the church is getting bigger, as there's more things thrown on our plate, as we're starting business endeavors, as we're doing this, as we're doing that? Have I lost her needs along the way? So I think rhythms and your pace is made to change. What happens when you're running and you hit a hill?
Slow down.
You start slowing down. And you know what? Hey, that's okay. Because sometimes, you know what I mean? Maybe that's the only way. Or sometimes if you want to keep a steady pace, when you hit a hill, you got to work harder. You got to hit it harder. Yeah. You know what I mean? To stay at that 8-minute, 9-minute pace of whatever you want, you know? Like you start, more energy starts coming out of you, So okay, are we going uphill right now? That's as a family. Yeah. As a family and as a unit and as the church, are we going uphill? If we're going uphill, there's more energy that needs to come out of me. And maybe the church is going uphill and our family is cruising. We got a good rhythm for our family. So hey, in this season, babe, I got to put more energy in the church because we're going uphill. So I'm going to put more energy there. What do you think? Letting her in the conversation. How's that feeling? Is that okay? Is that something we want to do? You know what I mean? And it ebbs and flows, bro. Because at the end of the day, I don't think you'll ever have a balanced life. Yeah. I think it'll more be like a juggling life, Yeah.
And I think one of the things I really highlight in this topic, I notice you're always communicating. Communication is so important. And I noticed that you're always checking in with your wife. Hey, this is what's going on. How are you feeling? Hey, how's the family doing? The church is here. You're always speaking out loud about what's going on, and it never stays inside. So I would think that communication really is key. You always hear that communication is key, but seeing it from as a testimony of what you're going through, of what you're balancing, juggling. Like you said, communication's huge.
Bro, it's necessary.
Yeah.
It's necessary. And I think we've all learned how to not communicate in relationships.
Wow.
And it starts by how hard it is to even communicate with God. While I'm watching a Netflix series, something may happen and it won't distract me, bro. I'm locked in, dude.
Yeah.
Bro, there may be a burglar that comes into the house, bro, starts stealing my stuff.
Hey, come back later, bro.
Dude, hey, yeah, you could take that. Just don't take, you know what I mean?
Don't take my TV, bro.
Don't take my laptop, but take Amanda's iPad, you know? Like, hey, but I get so locked in and I get so engaged, but when it comes to talking to someone or when it comes to talking to God, one thing could happen and it'll throw me off.
Yeah.
You know? We're sitting right now having this conversation, you know? But easily, someone can come in, disturb, and all of a sudden we're like, you know what I mean? Hey, what were we talking about? What was going on, you know? And I think that's what happens, that we've lost the art of communication between people, which leads into losing that art of relationship, because you can't have a relationship with someone until you have communication with someone. Yep. So we've lost that side of having a relationship with people, and what we call is, oh, dude, oh yeah, me and Efren, we're cool, like, we have a relationship. Oh, dude, do you know what he's going through? No, but I see him every Sunday, every Wednesday, every Thursday.
Yeah.
So now relationship means something else. Relationship now means I see this person. That ain't a relationship, bro.
You gotta know them.
You gotta know them. You gotta take time with them. We're in like such a microwave generation, and we're so into like reels, right? And we're so into shorts.
Quick.
And that's how we start doing life. Because discipleship, taking it back to discipleship, it takes time, bro. One meeting with you doesn't mean I've discipled you. One conversation with you doesn't mean I'm discipling you. One time that you share me what's going on in your life, that doesn't mean I'm in your life. Me being in your life means a consistent checking in, a consistent doing life. And sometimes what I found that it just happens of like, dude, I gotta go run this errand. Hey, do you wanna roll with me? Yeah, dude. And then we start talking about life, and we start opening up, and we just start, you know what I mean? And we've hung out all day, and we haven't sat down. Because, okay, there's a difference between mentorship and discipleship.
Okay.
Mentorship is meetings where you're like, okay, let's sit down. Okay, talk to me, what's going on? What do you need help with? How can I help you with this? What do we do? Discipleship is just like, hey, follow me. All right, let's start doing life. All right, look at how my family's doing. Look at how I, come into my life. Versus let's just sit and talk. I could hide who I am when we sit and talk. Yeah. I could share you all the wisdom that I've learned from every podcast, every book that I'm reading, everything that's going. I could share you. But once I disciple, you see my life, bro. Discipleship isn't, okay, let's meet up once every other week. That's a mentorship, which is different. Discipleship is like, hey, let's do life. Discipleship is like, hey, you know my family, you know my wife, you know my kids, you know what my favorite coffee is, you know what I mean? It's doing life together. Wow. Jesus had his disciples. They were with him, 24/7, bro. That's what caused to change the world. It was 1 feeding into the 3, feeding into the 12, feeding into the 500, feeding into the world. Yeah. That's the model, bro. That's the model. Is having people so close to me that they get a sense of who I really am and what's really going on and how I really face my battles, of how I really go through my struggles, of how I really go through my life.
Yeah.
And then you seeing that and learning. That's what I've learned from Pastor Jeremy. Dude, we don't have many one-on-one meetings where I'm like, hey, dude, I'm going through this right now. No.
Yeah.
But he invites me to his house, to where I see things, to where I, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's those moments that makes me, when things do go wrong, go to him. Because I feel so comfortable with him.
Yeah.
I feel like, dude, like he knows me. He loves me. He knows my kids. He loves my kids. I've seen him love on my kids. I've seen him love on my wife. Like, when it's their birthday, he gets them gifts. You know what I mean? Like, it's those things that I'm like, oh, dude. It's those things that I'm like, dude, you're for me. You're not my mentor. You're my leader. Like, I'm being discipled by you, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, it's that model that I think actually truly changes people, which then changes a generation.
Wow. That's big, man. Going from your past generations to you going through traumatic things to learning from that and being aware, things surfacing, you finding a mentor or a pastor who can disciple you, to you gaining that, exposing, communicating. After communicating, you doing the same for others, and now you becoming a pastor and a leader and a father and ready to have more kids. Now, what after going through all those major steps and seasons of your life, what's next? What's the vision you have for your future? Like, I know you're a pastor right now. It's a pop-up phase. It's not even a church yet. Although there is a lot of people already. There's things going on. But what's after that? What would be the next thing for your life?
I think about the story of, like, the talents, where when you're responsible and a good steward of what God has given you, it says, like, those that were good stewards, God then gave them cities.
Wow.
Right? So we think of that and we're like, man, dude, if we just honor God with what we have, we're going to ball out, dude. But what you don't see is that means that they were managing a lot more people. That's a lot more stress.
Yeah.
You're managing cities. That means your time is gone. You're managing cities and you're over cities now. That means that your decision making is now in a million different areas. You know what I mean? So what's next for me, bro? I mean, I just want to be a good steward of what God has,
Good
man.
steward, yeah.
What I never envisioned being here.
So you can't imagine where God's going to take
you. So like, but it was being a good steward with whatever God had, which in my case was playing bass for 10 years, taking care of the bookkeeping for 10 years, being behind the scenes for 10 years. And then all of a sudden God saw that I was a good steward of that I took care of that. And he said, all right, here's a campus. Bruh.
Yeah.
And it sounds amazing, right? But dude, it's more work. It's more stress.
Yeah.
It's more responsibility. Dude, the responsibility is the reward. The responsibility is the reward. If I do a good job in building this campus how God wants me to build it, there'll be more. But more is always more.
Yeah.
So guess what? That's where those rhythms have to come into place of, like, man.
The pace.
Oh man, what's my pace, man? Do I want to be a shining star or a shooting star? Like, am I trying to be bright and give up all my energy right now? Or am I trying to just last? The pace determines if you last or if you don't. If you burn out and if you're gone.
Wow.
I like what Pastor Jeremy says. He says that burnout happens when you're too far ahead from God or when you're too far behind from God.
But when you're together.
That's when the yoke is easy. That's when the burden's light, bro.
Come on.
When you're yoked together. When you're yoked together, that's when you don't feel it.
Yeah.
Right? So constantly, Why is there a lot of communication with me and my family and Amanda? Because constantly I'm trying to find where it's easy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find that yoke and put it back on. Hey, God, we tied up? We good? You gonna take most of the heavy lifting, yeah? All right, let's roll. Yeah. But a lot of times it's my nature to want to do more. Dude, I am notorious, and it gets me into a lot of trouble. I am notorious of scheduling meeting after meeting after meeting after this. There's times where I'm like, oh man, I have a gap from 1 to 1:30.
Fill it up.
Yeah, let's have coffee at 1. Bro, knowing me very well that none of my coffee meetings are an hour. Like, bro, knowing very well that like I can't fit that. But I just, bro, it goes back to what I was first saying of not being able to, I just love being busy. Mm-hmm. I love just being on the move. I love that rush. I love that stimulation, which is something that I'm working on. Okay, why is it healthy? Is it unhealthy? Is it, and it could be a little bit of both. It's healthy because I get a lot of meetings in one day. Mm-hmm. It's unhealthy because, man, how's my energy when I get back home and my wife wants to talk? Am I there? Am I present? Yeah. Or have I given it all out to people, and then by the time I get to Amanda, I have nothing else to give her?
Man, I really see it like how I think the highlight of our whole conversation that I took out was being aware of where you're at in life, your position.
That's good, yeah.
With God. What's coming, what's behind you, what you've been through, but just always being yoked with God.
Yeah.
Because I think that's number one. When you're yoked with God, God can be there and whisper in your ear when to stop, when to go.
Wow.
You're in tune with His presence because you're always next to Him. You can't get burned out. There's no such thing as burnout. No such thing as burnout. Because when you're burned out, there's something wrong. You're doing something out of alignment with God. That's what I'm getting from you right now.
Tell Him, bro.
And that's beautiful, man. It kind of teaches me a lot from my own marriage. I don't have kids yet, but when I do have kids, I'm gonna remember this conversation and know that I gotta be in tune with the Holy Spirit, knowing that my life, my family's a priority before anything. Nah, thank you for this conversation, man. Seriously, I took a lot out of it, and I think the people who are gonna be listening and watching this are really gonna learn something from leaders, mentors, disciplers, people who are going into a new project, a new venture. And it's just all about being aware of where you're at, being aware of your pace. Is it God's pace? Is God pushing you harder, or is He slowing you down? And I think being aware of that, and how, is by communicating with the people around you, with your wife, and with God. But thank you so much, man. I appreciate the conversation, and I think there's something great going to come out of this. Yeah.
By the way, this flat white was amazing.
Thank you.
I took a sip and I almost interrupted you. I was like, bro, so good. So thank you, bro.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Dude,
thank you for knowing me and knowing my drink, bro.
Come on.
That's a true barista, bro.
Yeah. Come on, somebody. All right. Well, until next time.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys in the next episode.